And
yes, a 6 of 101.
yeah, so exactly. So on on our side, it's Peter, Alex, and Mark, and Mark's going to do the demo. And on your side, it's you. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Kevin. Hey, everybody. Can
Paul.
you hear me?
Yeah, you sound perfect.
Great.
And then I'm hearing, is that Katie? I hear too.
Yep, Katie here and Zach as well.
Hey, Katie and Zach.
And Jeff.
Then,
Sorry,
and then
Jeff.
you, Jeff. Is there somebody else?
No, Sean may come in later, but I don't know. He's trying to get ready for something.
Okay,
And
I'm going to record this, so if anybody misses it, I'll set it up and send it to you. So Jeff, I thought you should run the discussion, and we should kind of walk through the current. You and Katie walk through the current 3D data download, which we're looking at on my page, and then I'll share the screen with Mark, and then we can show you what we've done with all the Cambridge data in the interactive, the 3D content management software. So,
sure.
I'll leave the mic to you right now.
Okay, so and I might have Paul jump in at some point because so one of the things that we've wanted to do and still a work in progress is to be able to share data with back and forth with the architects and the developers and anybody else that wanted to use our data. There's a lot of students in Cambridge between the two big universities here. So we that was one of the sticking points a little bit when we put the model up there. Not everybody that was creating data was really thrilled to have it out there and downloadable, but Kevin, was up for it, small area. And so on our page, we wanted to be able to download the buildings, a ground plan and the terrain. And so Paul Cody, who's on the call but not in the room with us, he helped create this way of bringing down SketchUp files. We also have AutoCAD files, and you can get GIS files, but most of the people that are doing this are not looking for GIS, although some of the students or maybe some other folks that are in GIS who like to play around with the data. The ground plan was in Collada format, and so Paul came up with this grid. We didn't know how to quite do it. We couldn't have the whole city downloaded as a SketchUp file, so we broke it up into a grid, which came up, which works pretty well. Although life always happens to be that your project falls on the corner, four grid panels, but it's worked so far. And Paul could probably fill us in on a little bit on the details, but he also did this for the city of Boston. But it was always our hope that we could, make the little stretchy box and what Esri sometimes calls the clip, zip, and ship tool, or I don't know if that was something they talked at one time, but basically just that is that you could go and take a stretchy box and you could go around an area and pull in all the information from there, the 3D buildings, the ground plan, the terrain, but other features as we start bringing in bridges and start doing some other things. So what you guys are doing sounds really interesting as far as some of the GIS layers, the curbs and stuff like that. So, but I'm going to let Paul, if he wants to add anything to that, because he's really the guy who came up with the technical piece on this download tool.
Okay. I got out of my chair for a second and I wasn't watching. Did you click on a tile and show how the downloads are accessed?
You want me to share the screen, or I can do it either way, Paul?
Oh, I'm looking at Jeff's screen, and Jeff, if you just click on a tile and show the download links, there they are.
That's Kevin's screen.
Oh, that's Kevin's screen. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So this is how you get to the data. I got one correction on what Jeff said, and that is the ground plans are in JPEG or PDF or DXF,
Mm-hmm.
and the buildings are available as Collada, and we're thinking about making the buildings available individually as KMZ files. But
Yeah.
that's about it. That's all I have to add.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Sure.
Thanks, Paul.
So,
Just to let you
Paul,
know, Mark Thomas here. I've used the download tool and seen it. So it's great. It was one of the better ones I've seen out there, definitely.
Thank you.
So we're one of the next step beyond the download tools is to try to get the architects and anybody else that developer is to submit plans back to the city, and that's part of our digital submission requirement. Kind of out of what you're doing here, but that's just like the bigger picture is like not only do we want people to be able to pull data down, we want to be able to get data back and be able to bring them in. Although Kevin is creating buildings and he's doing an update now of our buildings. It's we don't always have the data to create the building, so as a nice placeholder or as is to get these asphalts, and that's nothing new to the city, who also has a digital submission requirement for any infrastructure, water, stormwater, sewer lines, or we also have a requirement for plans. Really, they just get them in PDF format in our inspectional services. So anyway, so that's sort of like, we want to be able to exchange data back and forth. One of the only downside, I would say, the part of the download link that it's not a bad thing, but before when people were requesting data, we got a really good feel of who was asking for the data. They'd have to call me, and it's a lot more work, so I'm not looking for more work. But it was nice knowing if somebody sent me an email and I could ask them a little bit about what they're doing. So, that's lost, because people just download it. We look at we look online and just see how much people are downloading. Once in a while they'll ask a question, but anyway, we'd love to have the back and forth with some of the developers. I think that working with our planning department, the bigger architects that we see time and time again, we'll start to open up some channels with them and talk about exchanging data and learn a little bit more.
Yeah, it's certainly there's an opportunity to capture their login details with the system we've got, and we'll also ask questions. We'll at least make it convenient from a drop down. I'm interested in this as a developer for such and such. So you can start collecting information, their email address and dialogue. And I'm sure that people will be willing to enter that, create themselves a little login to the system so that you can keep track of what they're downloading and so forth.
Yeah, you can also notify them of updates. So, give us your information and we'll let you know when we're adding new wonderful City of Cambridge GIS data. Yeah,
we do. We try to at one time I actually tried to go out and, all the people that had asked for data, send them emails. But, as a lot of times it's just somebody that's bidding on a job and their interest is only when they're bidding on the job, But we do have a number of architects that do a fair amount of business in the city. So, but I think the whole idea of those folks that are bidding on jobs, they're the ones that are going to want to pull down this data, and we do see it. And it is more than just the architects; it's also people doing street design. There'll be consultants that are doing they could be doing a bike lane or a big intersection change or anything, part of the the subway system. So from time to time we see our data pop up in either an online publication or even a print news sometimes. So we Paul will find things from like the neighborhood group that the neighborhood he lives in, Cambridge. So we send them around. We see them.
I've also found in my work with Boston, which is a very similar system, that we've had some outreach with the Boston Society of Architects, and they've revealed that a lot of architecture firms have downloaded the entire model and are maintaining their own version in parallel. And so, yeah, notification of updates is something that they're interested in, as well as having individual buildings that they can plug in instead of having to get large tiles to update when there's just one or two buildings that have changed.
Well, that's interesting. That's a conversation we've been having with a number of architects, you know, around having this as a sort of a resource that they can, you know, collate across people within a, you know, office, and even across multiple offices and so forth. So, you know, the concept of federating and sharing is an interesting one. You know, do you want to, you know, are they, if they're willing to contribute, you know, their data to the greater good, or do they want to keep it private? You know, some of those options are interesting. You know, we can do it both ways, but it's kind of, you know, it's more of a yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Yes.
Should we?
Mark, you want to?
I don't have much more to say about the, you know, the download tool, except for, you know, I mean, it's something that we know. You know, we're looking forward to the data update that's coming from Kevin and incorporating that in, and then, you know, what we really want to do is to have, you know, the data updated as much as we update our 2D data. So, I mean, for our 2D building footprints, we try to get them in as soon as we see construction happen. That can't happen with 3D, but we'd like to be able to, you know, try to get some stuff in here. We're still not at the point where we're going to put proposed buildings on our website just yet. That would be our community development, which is our planning office is called. But,
okay, so with regards to that, you know, we can actually pop your building footprints in here immediately that are available and extrude them to known heights to augment the, you know, the existing Cyber City 3D buildings. So we can have 2D footprints as extruded models, and if you make a note, I can show you what that looks like. I just don't have it in this account, but I can show you in another place where you can have a combination of 2D building footprints, 2D extruded footprints, the Cyber City 3D models, introduced models, you know, that are, you know, more architectural models, full BIM models, all in the same area, and you can pick and choose what you want to download from as, you know, different types.
yeah, that would be a good in-house tool that, you know, the urban designers could use. Probably nothing we'd want to put on the public-facing website. They don't want
yes, yeah. Just to clarify that, the way this works is that you have you know, an account. So, you know, we see here, and there's just one project view, but you can build as many different, you know, project views and interfaces to the same set of data that you like. So you can create an in-house view, external view for developers, external view for public, internal view for planners. You know, and the idea is that everyone's messing with the same data, but with different, you know, different levels of access. Either they can view it, not edit it. Maybe they can view it and edit it. Maybe they can't even see it. And you can control all that through the users and permissions and so forth. But the good thing is then you're not trying to synchronize all of your information, you know, through separate systems. It's all one system. You're just controlling, you know, who can see what and who can introduce and add and edit and so forth. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Look, shall I jump in and show you a bit of where we're at with the download?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
Okay, so what we have here, and jump in any time. Look, this is very freeform. I haven't really planned this, so we're using live software. Of course, anything can happen. But what I've got is the model of Cambridge. We can turn on. This is the place. You know, this is the. We can choose base maps. You can choose a, you know, whole variety. You can have artistic maps. You know, there's many different choices of base map that we can have. You know, from that to and we can add, you know, many new ones. So that's, you know, this list is you know, one that's you know, can be as you like. So we'll just go for a nice simple background look. Then we have the ability to introduce you know, many different. We talked talk here. Layers is a very much a GIS concept. We think more about entities, like things. We have things, we have buildings, we have curbs, we have pipes, we have streets, we have people, we have modems, we have things, and we can put those things on layers. So we still support all the concepts of layers, but we think much more about things and their data, and about things, their relationship with each other. Is a floor in a building, is a room in a floor which is in a building, is a building on a parcel, and there are relationships. Like the building is contained by a parcel, a floor is inside a building, a room is inside a floor, therefore it's inside the building, the floors, and that sort of thing. And there are different data structures around each of those things, but there's lots of tools to bring it in. So I'll just turn on the data here, and so we've turned on a 3D model. We've got, they're nice 3D models. You can, do shadow analysis and all that sort of thing now, and we have tools for measurement and so forth, and markup. Do lots of. We can make this pretty. You can use this basically as a 3D PowerPoint tool, so we can create, a little story here of information. That this is not done a lot here. We can do some if that's of interest. And go to, I can say go to a saved sort of little area, and what that does is it turns on a predefined set of curbs, driveways, sidewalks, and this sort of data that's come in, and we can turn, turn the curbs off and on, or the driveways off and on, or something like that. And if we want to download, some section of this, it's a case we'll sort of line up. We'll get something sort of more or less north-south facing, or just lined up with a block, and we'll then get our selection tool. So select a region, lines it up nicely for us. We put a window over there, and this goes back out to the system. And it says that it's found within our data set here what's turned on. It's found buildings, it's found curbs, it's found driveways, it's found sidewalks. And if we have a look, this is the list of buildings that it's found. This is a set of curb data that it's found. And it'll tell us about those curbs and so forth. It'll tell us the driveways and the sidewalks that have been found in this. So we're now going to go export, and we can export all of the 3D geometry as a combined file, and we have a choice of Collada, KMZ, and a KMZ. Just to be clear, a KMZ is a combination of a KML file for the 2D geometry plus BAE files for the 3D geometry. Now, this option's not currently, I don't believe it's working in this particular release, so I'll just bring it down as the Collada, but we can bring it down with the full geospatial. So really what a KMZ does is give you geospatial reference for all of the data. The options there now include, now that we've done a geometry module, the ability to add numerous different formats here, from OBJ to Direct SketchUp to Rhino to, the way that we've done this module means that the ability to extend to support multiple different formats is very straightforward now. We just happen to have chosen Collada at this point, but it will support all the entities. So any questions on that?
No, great.
Yes, sorry, I had a question. When you were creating, so you drew that box, but what if I want to add or remove? Can I add or remove buildings from that selection?
No, good question. Not on this particular version. No, you can't. It's missing. I should be able to go in and add a second selection or so forth. It's a more or less trivial piece of development for us to add that ability to add to the selection set. I'm sorry, it's just not quite done. There's a number of things that are not quite complete yet, that we can add fairly easily, but no, as of today, you have to select it all, and I can close this, I can reselect the area if I like, or I could select again and simply add to the existing file, if that makes sense. But at this stage, no, it's just the area. But
I have another question too.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. Back in that window where you could see the list of everything that you had selected,
Yeah.
I saw that there were check boxes there. So does that mean that you can uncheck a feature?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that,
Yes,
does it show you which one you're unchecking, like on the actual map? Does it highlight in some way, or?
I'm not sure. I think so. If it doesn't, again, not a problem to do that. I think it does do it.
Yeah, I saw the attributes. Okay.
Yeah, I want you to understand what we're showing here is the very first download tool, and you're speaking to the people actually in control of the development of this completely. So your requests for the way it works and so forth, user interface. We're really open to hearing that. We'd like to work with you guys on how to make this the best possible tool for this particular application.
Yeah, great, thank you. I'm just thinking about, we have our general purpose viewer, or our Cambridge City viewer, and in that tool we do have an export option. It's just 2D data, but you do have the option in there to kind of manually, like hold down the shift key and you can add or remove buildings from the section. So I'm just thinking about like how our tools work and the kind of the way that people interact with it to try to.
Yeah, I'm very confident we can give you that feature if it's not already halfway through development. In fact, it's certainly been raised in development meetings. I think it's just not quite done. But
hey,
so,
also, this is Kevin here. I know Jeff and Katie and Paul and I have had numerous conversations about projects being done in Cambridge. One unique thing about this app is that because it's live and it can be modified tremendously, you can bring in a development project like some area that's of a high degree of interest, and you can also download textured files and other types of building files, other types of data. So if you want to feature a development project, you can upload the data, leave it there, make it downloadable, build a bookmark, and then you can promote the link and say, hey, you want to see this new development? It's right here. Download it if you want to work with it. Now, I don't know if that's a political minefield or what the way that it's accepted and used. That's something that you have to tell us. But I think it's really great if you want to pinpoint certain development projects that are in the works, in the pipeline, or being voted on or reviewed by the city.
I think that's a great idea. I don't know if our planning office does, but I mean, it seems like, yeah, there's so we have a giant complex that's going up. It's called right now it's called the Volpe Center. It's the U.S. Department of Transportation headquarters. They're actually building a new building behind it, and then that's going to be taken down, and it's just and so that's a real hot topic button there. But that would be, I would see people really wanting to play around with data in that area, and that's in the area called Kendall Square, which is our hot area. It's not too far from where Paul lives, and you can see some of these buildings from his house.
It's very straightforward. I'll show you a demonstration what it's like to drag and drop and put new buildings in. But I just on the screen I hope you understand what I just showed is that I just hit the download and we just loaded that model we created into SketchUp.
That's great. I have a suggestion that I know this will be a feature for the future, maybe. As you can see, the curbs are a little complex, and to capture the entire ground plan with all of its possible features is really tricky. But one thing I've really found useful, which may be easy for you, is to just capture an image of your map service within the rectangle, and you can make that part of the collada file as a textured rectangle, and it really gets you a lot of detail for very little trouble.
Completely agree with you. Yeah, just to go back to this. So at this stage, what I've done is we can turn on any GIS data that we've imported, and anything that I turn on will be optionally downloaded. The one thing that I can't show you today is the download of the terrain or the base map. So that's on our development roadmap for as soon as we can possibly do it, and that would include, you know, exactly what you described, which is either the flat terrain with the base map or the actual surface, the DTM model, with the texture map base map of choice. So, you know, if I turn the curbs and the driveways off, you know, we certainly wouldn't get those. We'll just get the 3D models. But ideally, we would also get whatever base map has been selected.
Yeah, that was a conversation we had a while ago, was to, you know, try to bring in the base map, and then I don't know, it got lost in there somewhere. But that was a you know, we have some cached base maps that we use, but you know, it really is the same thing as what we call the ground plan, and that was what the, you know, the JPEG and PDF that Paul pointed out.
Yes, absolutely, completely agree. So, and that's currently work in progress to add that option for download to include the terrain and the base map. And then this is just simply a case of, you know, you can either allow a free-form set, so you can decide from your account which things you want to allow people to download, and they can manually select them here, or you could limit it to a set of bookmarks which give them you know, an overview which they can then zoom into and just pick out the things that, so, you know, if we click there, that's another bookmark of just specifically, you know, 2D data, and you know, then there's you know, there's multiple ways to cut it, basically.
Yeah, and also I think a really great application as we were developing this this product. Originally, when we started, we were looking at real estate, you know, cities and architects. Like how do we meet? And you kind of ebb and flow in terms of the requirements, but you're finding that there's some that overlap between the three different industries. But one of the things I really thought about, it'd be great for Cambridge, would be that we can separate all the rooftops, and you can download rooftop data now, 3D rooftop data for solar. So if you're doing climate change projects or climate change analysis, this could be great for the universities to have access to the data, because they may then just get their own license and upload the data and do their own projects. So there's a definite overlap with other fields like Department of Environment, Department of Transportation. Mark has probably shown you 10% of what the software does. So it's all there.
Would you like to see a bit more of what it can actually do outside of the specific download?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
You know, there was one thing that, you know, I'm trying to remember who sent this to me, but somebody from, from EdgyGeo, and it was kind of like, it was a latest developments PDF, and yeah, one of the things that you know, we have a hard time in the Esri world is the 3D markups of the leaders that you guys had, and you said that they, you know, the slide was like they stay attached while the model is rotated, and text boxes, leader arrows, and everything. You know, that is something that we're always fussing with, and, you know.
Okay. All right. Well,
and that's a real estate. That's a big real estate ask, Jeff. Right? Like that was like the requirement of the graphics departments in the real estate office. Like, okay, we need 3D. We need to mark it up. It needs to be better than Google Earth. It needs to be easier and more flexible than Esri. Blah blah blah. Right? So we definitely heard it from the specialists in those industries.
So I'll go through. I just walk through. This is in no particular order features, but the idea is that, you know, we can bring in. These are examples of the 2D extruded models mixed with 3D models mixed with textured models that have been brought in here. So you literally just drag and drop your 3D, you know, CAD models. So you convert them to a thing called GLB, which we can explain more. But you know, when we put them in, you have complete control over, you know, moving it. So the object here, when I click on it, we've got custom forms now, which mean you can pop up, you can design exactly what you want to display. So this is just a subset of the data about this building. with the full data available, again, based on login here with media attachments, and we can look at multiple photos, plans, and so forth, multiple documents. There might be PDF documents, about the building attached. Just download that, and we'll see a PDF pop up. So all of this data, becomes available. We can also, in settings, we can move it about, adjust its position. I can literally move this building around in here, and we'll just cancel that, put it back where it's supposed to be. You can also go in and sort of pull apart just some parts of it. So we could go in here and just pull the floor out, so we can take a look at it, and just put that back in there. You can let's see, we'll go to something. We can have sort of a more global view of things. Look at subzones. So these are big polygons. These will give information. From the GIS data, we can look at the city fences are very much like the City of Cambridge. So we'll go in here and we can look at, these are specific real estate listings. We've got tools now that we can search, find me all buildings in this zone on this type of parcel, and then zoom up, and it'll show you the buildings. So if we click on that, we get the little summary thing and the overall space and all that sort of thing. And there's no photo on that one, and there's no, some data will be there, and the buildings are actually coloured by the class of building. So you can choose to colorize the buildings in any bookmark in any way that you wish. So these buildings are class A. If I change that to class B or C, it'll change colour. Let's see, so a mixture of texture, different base maps and so forth. We've got a tool here which will capture this image out to there's zoning information, which will capture this out to up to 600 DPI and higher print resolution. If you wish, let's see, go down to Renaissance Square. We can, this is the general one. We'll come in here. So add legends, and these are the markups. We'll add a couple of extra. You can have little animated files, and you can see how the leaders move around and follow the objects as we go. We can turn markup on and off, so these are associated with the bookmark. Got measurement tools. We can go and walk around. So what we might do, let's see. Shadows, yeah.
So one of the other things that you had in that same document that I was, the PDF I was looking at was search tools, and coming soon. It was like search across all entities, attributes, and spatial position.
Yeah.
Display the results. I know you said it was coming soon, but I was just curious to know what you're thinking over that.
Yeah. So buildings, add criteria. We're interested in the agent name, includes new mark, add a criterion, show, hide, add a criterion. We're looking for a certain amount of space, available space direct, something like that is greater than or equal to 5,000. I don't know whether the search will reveal any particular. No, I don't think it's found anything particular on that one, but that's the search tool that does, it works and gives us results.
Just searching on attributes within the data.
Yeah, exactly. And that data can be both spatial and non-spatial, but the spatial one, which is within a radius, that's the bit of the search that's not complete yet. But that will also work, and it works within the view you're in. So I'd have to zoom. If I find things outside this view, it's not going to automatically zoom to it yet. So when we add the spatial, it will zoom. This is just a little bit of work in progress. You can do things like we'll we'll show the markup. So some of the markup tools, you can add your own text box like this. In that text box, we can add images. We can have multiple images associated with it. We can just write text here. And we'll change the font size, change the color. We can change the transparency and color of the box, and so you've got margin size, border radius. We can make that type of thing, and then we might move it around text here, and we draw a line from that, and that will then attach it to that building, and then we can go back to select. If I rotate around, I can draw polygons on the ground. So if we go, might want to highlight this building, for example. We'll click.
I wanted to see what it looked like when you kind of like rotated or zoomed around. Are those labels fixed? And then
yeah, they're fixed in 3D space. So let's just say
another amazing feature. All this markup again was designed so you could create content, right? You can create graphical content from 3D, and also you can present it in 3D, but to improve your ability to create reports, materials, and so on. But we also bring in third-party data like walk scores, traffic data, and that's all live. Including Street View and the things you would expect, Matterport and all that as well has been integrated. All the things that you need to sell commercial real estate, basically, which is a lot of bells and whistles. But I think the walk score and the other live data would be really valuable to the city, because there's a lot of really public good type of information that is available in terms of fed services, not just walk score, but also environmental scores, things that relate to public transportation advantages, and so on. And I think it's great because you can show it all in 3D, and you can add it to the app and add it as another feature for the public, or do it internally for reports.
Also add information about we might have, let's have a look here. Oops, the Matterport link is this people go to. So we can link off to actually go through. So we've got 3D scans of the building. We can come in and
hey, Paul,
and then
Paul, I think Parvane she's doing all this for Harvard now, right? Did she have you assist her in some of this interior work she's doing at Harvard?
No, I haven't. I've not heard about that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, someone in management said we need interior GIS, and so she's been working with Esri to do some stuff, but it's all been kind of hard labor stuff, right? Like very custom designed. It's not really like EdgyGeo where you can just build it and bring it in. Now, of course, the challenge is always the 3D models, right? That's always the big thing, is to get the 3D models, but also to get them to work the right way is important. So, a lot of these features we're not really it's all about the upload, download, and easy visualization so that the data can be consumed. That's really the major purpose of this discussion, but there's all these other features. And so what I'd like to do, Paul, is have you get a little involved and kind of take a look at this and find a way that we can even turbocharge this more.
Sorry, here's some other examples. These entities are, traffic. So the actual traffic information is coloring and sizing the lines on the map based on the actual data about the traffic. So if we go and have a look at the menu about this, let's see, is this, let's see, demo, that's in, yes. So if I go to the menu, we look at the menu system that was set up for that, and we look at the traffic, we'll see that the style for the polygon, it's not traffic, project view, polylines, there we are. So the polylines are set to, the line color is set to be a gradient based on the values of the range, and the line width is 7 mappings, and the applied value is 2. And now we could, increase those. We could, double all those for I'm meaning to do that sometime, 6, 8, for the thickness of the roads, 10, 12, 14, 18, and close, and we save that. And so now, when in our public view, if we refresh that, we'll see a subsequent shift. So you can see those lines have doubled in size now based on our settings, and we can change the colours and so forth. That's how easy it is to.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
The data, the line work, and the attributes behind these, when this is in production mode, where would those data be? Would they be web feature services, or on our server, on your server, or how does that work?
Well, the answer can be any of the above if you wish, but there are different there are different possibilities depending on where it exists and how it exists. So one of them is that a static dump is done from Esri. So you either go from Esri to GDB and then into here, and it takes a static dump, and you do that once a week, once a fortnight, and so forth, and then the data is captured and stored on our hosting system. It's a full database. It's not so it becomes searchable within our environment with our tools, our find, and all that sort of thing. Alternatively, you can link that data by an Esri RESTful service, so you could link in and simply pick it up. So whenever we request that by menu, we're not looking at it as a data feed from our system, but as a feed from Esri, assuming that you've got the appropriate feeds and you're happy with the server costs of Esri. You can do it that way. You could also absorb it as a WMS feed, although there are some more limitations about searching and so forth, doing it that way. I would say probably one of the first 2 ways would be the best way to do it, either to have a standard dump once a month from Esri, or connect it to an Esri, or some combination of the two. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So you see, yeah. So a lot of options, and these are all obviously this is all data that's originated from Esri. In this case, these are static, dumps. But one of the things I wanted to show, I thought you might be interested in. We talked about this relationship of managing, buildings and cities. See all these buildings here.
Oh, that's a question I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, sure. Hopefully I'm going to talk about the thing that you were interested in. But so these buildings are coloured, so they're dynamically coloured by the value. Now the value that would link to these can again be static, or they could be live feeds to sensor data, IoT networks and so forth around the city. So you might colour roads by current traffic conditions, and there's all sorts of possibilities. But I want to talk to you about the relationship thing in a building. So when I click on this building, I see that I have a summary and so forth. I'm going to use control click, and that gives me the full data if I have the appropriate login, and website links and so on and so forth. But so that we're now looking at information about that building, and it tells me, as well as having lots of media that I can look at. We can go through a little media tour of the building, and And so this data is associated, and the way that this media is associated is to simply drag and drop data into this view. I literally drag and drop an image, again, if I have the appropriate login, and that creates a set of videos or images. Likewise, attachments are really the same thing. If I want to drag and drop documents, consenting information, resource consent documents, city planning documents, anything you like, essentially, and it will create classes and types of documents as you upload it. Say, what is this, a consenting document? Is it a planning document? Is it a public information, a legal document, a title document? So all of that can be added. But what we're talking about here is the building. So the building itself is a thing. We also have related to that building multiple floors. So, for example, if I go to floor 17, it's relationship. So I go to floor 17, I'm now no longer looking at the building. I'm looking, like, my information is about the floor, if that makes sense. And so in related, the floor is inside this building, and the floor contains these suites. So when I click on the suite, you should be seeing the information. I've got a little hack out there, excuse me, but I would go into the suite, and that would give me the floors and the suite information. If for some reason there's a link missing, but that would take me into the data about the suite.
Question. This is brilliant, by the way. I love this. And how does a person create these data? So we're looking at a 3D building, and it appears to have a bunch of spaces inside of it which fit within the building, which you maybe just extruded polygons or something like that, and they all fit together nicely. How do you have in mind an authoring tool for actually creating this kind of geometry?
Yes, we do. At the moment, it requires that we, create this geometry. So here are the suites in here, and I'll have to look in and go as to why that relationship looks broken. But if I look at this suite information here, these are all related. So it's related to floor 22. Yes, there's a link issue. My apologies. It happens in demo and then you find something. But these models here are created using SketchUp. But yes, the idea is for us to have an authoring tool. Again, it's on our roadmap so that we can extract, when we go to any building, we can extract it into a temporary tool which will allow very quick subdivision by floor. So, type in the number of floors and then subdivide a floor into partitions like this, so we can very quickly create these three-dimensional spaces. And these spaces are not just geometry, as you can see, but they're actually, it's data. They are entities. They are of an entity type suite, if we define it as a suite or a space, and they're connected to an entity type which is a floor, which is connected to an entity type which is a building. So when we see in here, let's go to entity types, we have defined a building. So I'm looking at as having all of these different potential attributes in this particular case, and we can add and subtract to this, list of attributes anytime. We can edit and so forth. If we go back to a floor and look at the data schema for a floor, we'll see that this is the data that we have for a floor, and we can have the Matterport link, and we can add, I can add any new, attribute type to it. So I can build a universal concept of a floor and link it to multiple different data sources about a floor. Some data might come from Esri, some might come from spreadsheets, some might come from other city databases, but I can define an entity type. And then between this floor and then I have a suite, and that will have its own data schema. So, you know, these are the things that we care about within a suite. Now, within a suite, we may have an air conditioning unit. We may have a modem. We may have fiber. You have the ability to keep adding things of interest to your digital twin world and define what the data attributes are about those things, and then draw the information that fills that data about your things from any source that you define. So it's a way of normalizing the description of things from multiple different sources, even if their attributes differ in different systems.
So currently, like with this particular example building, you've created all these interior spaces with SketchUp, and they become objects and exported out somehow, and then the manager clicks on each of these polygons and attaches the attributes to them using an interface of some sort that uses an ID and uses some sort of a relational link to link each one of them to a table of suite data?
Yes, we have a number of you know, ways to do that, either manually or programmatically. And so, in the simple sense, what I did here in creating these particular relationships is that we turned on, you know, let's go to you know, a fuller view, and I could say, for example, that and we pick this building, and we go more and relate it, and then I can go create a new, so I can create a new entity on the fly, or I can add an existing. So I might, well, let's do this. This would be interesting. Okay, I can't do that one there. I'm not allowed to do it with that. So if I select on a building, the idea is I can add an existing, in which case I can then select if I have an entity I'm allowed to do that with. I select with a window all of the objects contained within the building, or, you know, one by one, or shift select, and I say add a relationship, and in that sense I can then define a new relationship or use an existing relationship. So, you know, I might select the building, and then I'll go add existing. I put a window around it. It selects all the entities that it can find in there. You then say, well, I'm only interested in those ones. Build me a relationship which says that the entities selected are related to the first selection by this relationship, and I do it. Now, we also, anything that we do here, we can do programmatically. So, for example, it's feasible to build the relationship between objects based on a spatial search or a data search or join. So I could say all of the buildings that reside inside the polygon of a parcel, I want to create the relationship is inside. So all buildings, obviously buildings found on this parcel, build the relationship, this building is inside this parcel. Now go through my water network and my pipes and find the end of my water supply pipe node and do a search and find the nearest polygon, which is a building footprint or a 3D building or whatever, you know, your choice, and then build the relationship on the assumption that the nearest footprint is connected downstream. So that's my relation connected downstream from my water supply pipe. So when I then go to make a, you know, turn a valve off, and I know the water line connector, I also know who to call up to talk to about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So the other question I had about, you know, what about something underneath the building? Like if we were going to do a relationship, so like, you know, I'm thinking of zoning. You know, there's a zone. You know, could you do something? I know this is building centric, but you know.
Yes, absolutely. So this is well, in fact, here we are. Here's one in zoning. So I have these zoning polygons here. Yep. And for some reason, I'm not showing this account, but let's select that zone. and see if we can do a relationship. So that zone is add an existing. I'm sorry, for some reason in this account, I'm locked out of doing the relationships. My apologies. Happy to show this when it's working pretty good. Basically what I do is I go, this is the data about that zone, and I want to say add an existing relationship, and I go single entity, and I click on that building or a selected area, and it then builds a relationship, and the relationship in this case, associated contains inside, I can have a new one which is connected to or something like that, and I choose that relationship, and that's how I build it on a one-by-one basis. But it potentially, I might want to do this automatically for all buildings and say, for all entity types of building, find every build a relationship by polygon, by nearest polygon, i.e. for each zone or parcel, find me the building, the Cyber City building that is contained within that, and build a relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's good. It's something, I mean, our planners are, it's funny, as far as we're going, it's going to put zoning underneath buildings, but it's something that they're asking about.
Yeah, no, I certainly do. And my apologies, there's something in this particular account has been broken over.
A hard one worked.
Yeah.
The more complex one,
Yeah, I'll come back to you and show you that working in a day or so if need be. There's no problem with that. Just caught me by surprise, as happens with the demo gods. But I can show you, concept. I mean, if you'd like to see pipe networks, I mean, this is, markup stuff. There's.
Well, we got to wrap up fairly soon because I don't think I have this conference room reserved much, too long. But this is good. I mean, I like the download. The download tool looks great. There's a whole bunch of new things here since the last time that we sat down and talked. We're really looking forward to getting our new data set together, and we're thinking of ways that we can get it out there. So this is food for thought here.
I certainly, like to encourage. I don't want to distract things by showing lots of, features. I think we just want to work on making it. Let's, get each step, exactly right for you. So that we move forward. We have an engagement. We create the download tool for buildings, and then we add the download tool, which will include terrains, and we add, and so forth. Let's do it a step at a time and get each part exactly right in the way that you want it.
Yeah, good. That sounds good. So we want to talk amongst my team here, and then I've been talking to Kevin about, as we're moving forward, he knows a little bit about what I'm trying to do. So this is a great overview, and thanks for the time of, showing us the new tools, and and the download tool looks great. I think that's something that's there's a lot going on here. You guys you're juggling a lot of balls as you put this thing out. So
so we've shown you a few beta features, but as I say, let's get the download right for you and go from there.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks everyone for sitting in on the call. Jeff, I'll follow up with you. Paul, we should definitely talk some more. I'd like to pull Carolyn into this because there's a lot we can do for Boston. At some point, maybe you can be helpful. We can kind of go into that together. There's a lot of opportunities for you to sort of be a overseer on some of these activities. So let's all circle back. I did record this. I'll send you the link, Jeff and Paul and Katie and Sean, and you guys can review it and make it your weekend fun viewing. So let's circle back early next week.
Okay,
great.
Katie, Sean, and myself, we're going to be going to a GIS conference up here, so we'll be out earlier next week. But we'll settle down for the rest of the year after next Thursday.
That's great. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if there's any new insights in terms of how we can bring 3D to the world and have a great time.
Yeah, Katie's bringing 3D to the world. She's going to be doing a presentation on 3D.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I taught a class in, what was it for, Nashville?
Jefferson University in Philadelphia.
Oh, great.
3-hour-long lecture about Cambridge and 3D and what we're doing here.
Wow.
Look, if there's anything that we can do to support you, give you, login and some, help, let us know. We'd be delighted to help you show off 3D Cambridge.
Oh,
Sure, thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Okay. Talk soon.
Congratulations, Mark. This looks really great. Lots of work. It's paying off.
Thank you.
Thanks to feedback from our business relationships and our friends, we were able to build this.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So,
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we're gonna go through it, and we'll maybe some more feedback and some ideas, So, but you're heading in the right direction. I'll tell you that.
I forgot to show you something really quickly on the way out. We got the new walkthrough mode, so you can actually go and stand anywhere and go and play it like a game.
Cool.
Oh yeah, what did I see? I saw that somewhere. That or maybe it was a different email that came through or something. New walk fly modes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that can jump to any point. That's cool.
That's
Yeah,
very
that's
cool.
like something. There's another project that Katie's working on, which is more of outside of the buildings, but we're doing this. We're going along a corridor, a transportation corridor that's a proposed walkway. So so we're doing some things that are outside of buildings too, but we have some interested internal clients. Let's just say that people from again in our planning department, but that's a project they see that they want to do some public facing, something on our website for. So.
Yeah, sure. So that fly mode, we can do things potentially like fly along polygons and paths and all that sort of thing. So please talk to us about it.
Yeah, there's a Camelback Mountain. It looks like.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is. And those are extruded buildings. They're not as pretty as the Cyber City, but at least we get full coverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got.
There.
I think I showed you. We got the street view and map views integrated, so you can. It's all part of the system now.
Hey, Paul, are you still in the Google Street View image?
No, they updated it. They took me out. My 15 minutes of fame is finished, I'm afraid.
Oh man, too bad.
Well, there was somebody from MIT that said they figured out the way to get historical street view imagery. So maybe we can bring it back.
I believe it.
Good.
I believe it.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
everyone.
Sorry. Thanks for the time.
You got it. Bye.
Okay, great. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks, Mark, Kevin, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.